Hello, Huge Movie Fanatic Nate coming at you on an early October evening in 2016, coming at you to review the third and final. I can't imagine they're going to make another one of these movies, maybe 16 years later from now, who knows. The third and final, or at least at this time, probably forever. Blair Witch, movie in the Blair Witch frickin' pathetic, in my opinion, trilogy of just brain-numbing crap trilogy of Blair Witch movies by the name of simply Blair Witch. Now, as I said in my Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows review, after the first one did slam bang business because everyone was lied to and everyone thought they were seeing real footage, something real, the plan was at the time to do a sequel and then a prequel. Well, that idea, I guess, to be honest, I kind of wouldn't have minded seeing the prequel, in this movie. They didn't go the prequel route. This is a movie that's oh, I forgot to say the first movie was purported, the events of the video of that movie was purported to have been done like in October, what did they say, October 1994 or something? So it should be, yeah, that's something you kind of have to know for this movie, is that the original footage, the event of the original movie was said to have taken place in October, I think, of 1994. This movie is about a younger brother of the Heather Donahue character from the first movie, that 20 years later this movie takes place, if memory serves, is it 2000, it's either 2000, I think it's 2014. Yeah, it must be. I think this movie takes place, or this footage was, takes place in 2014, which of course is going to be 20 years after the footage took place in the original. So, Heather Donahue character's, little brother, who has wondered for 20 years what had happened to his sister, and I guess he thinks if he goes out in the woods, maybe he can find her just living in a freaking cave or whatever 20 years later. That's what he's like. So stupid. So this movie is a sequel basically to, let's just forget, and I'm glad to do this, let's just forget Book of Shadows ever existed. And this is basically a sequel, from what I can gather, to the Blair Witch Project. Obviously not. Yeah, so basically what ends up happening is at the very beginning of the movie we see just shaky shit in the house, scary, loud, just for a couple seconds, then it cuts to this girl videotaping this guy. That footage we just opened the movie with was on YouTube. These people we end up meeting later on, this guy and girl, the ones who have, basically I think they said they found that tape in the woods and they uploaded it to YouTube or whatever. So this younger brother of Heather Donahue character, hooks up with these people. They go on a trip to meet these people, to go out in the woods to show them where they found the tape. Well, when they get there, they realize that those two people, this creepy, goofy guy and this girl, presumably girlfriend, are like, well, we want to go out there too. We want to, that's the deal. If you want us to show us where the tape is, you got to take us with. And it's like, well, pretty much no choice there. The younger brother of Heather Donahue character wants to see if he can come to the bottom of what happened to his sister and hopefully find her in the woods 20 years later. I don't think you'd want to, because the condition her body would be in. Ugh. So this is just a found footage fest about all these college-aged people going out, and basically this girl who's, I guess, just friends. I don't think they're going out, just friends with this guy. This Heather Donahue's younger brother is doing a documentary, of course, about this. So she wants to film it and see what kind of things they can uncover in the Burkittsville woods or whatever. And one thing I like about this movie more than Blair Witch 2 is the fact that it's like all, basically all in the woods again. It's very much like you could really call it a remake, really, of the first movie. Definitely a remake / reboot, although it is kind of a true sequel to the first movie. So these college-age people all get together. And one thing I want to mention before I forget, like I've said back in my Slumber Party Massacre 3 review, is there's actually like a black couple in this movie, like a 20-something black couple. And I was very surprised and impressed to see that they're not ghetto. They're just like talk like normal, and they're just normal people. And and it happens very rarely, especially in 21st century movies that I see. I don't see a lot of them, but unfortunately, just because of the way, usually black people are portrayed as ghetto and just, Ice-T and Ice Cube and all this shit in movies whenever they're in movies. That's probably my biggest props that I can give Blair Witch, the movie that came out in 2016, is that there's a black couple who are just like normal. They're not ghetto. They don't talk with the black ghetto, accent or like slang words and all this shit. So props to that. I don't know whose decision that was, or if it was just incompetence on the filmmaker's part. I don't know. But regardless, I was very appreciative of that. So that was probably my only thing I have positive to say about this movie, except for it's finally back out in the woods again, the whole thing. I gotta admit, I kind of like, the beginning of it. The first, maybe we'll call it the first third of the movie, where it's just like going out in the woods and walking through the, the river or whatever it was, a creek, and setting up camp and this and that, because it's 2016. Well, at the time, the movie's purported to have taken place, or the footage is purported to have taken place in 2014. So obviously, video footage has gotten much more advanced that we utilize, and for at the beginning of the movie, it's kind of cool because we find out that they have got themselves a flying drone. Like there's drones that don't fly, but they got a drone with a camera on it, and I'm like, ooh, cool. What are they gonna do with that? Turns out they just like put it up and down like twice in the movie, and then like it gets caught in a tree. Like nothing ends up being done with this drone in the movie. Like, I don't know why they brought it. Like they're gonna go out in the middle of the woods and like go up in the trees, and like hoping they could see a house. All you just see is trees. It's so funny. But they got these supposed, I don't know if these exist or not or what, but these supposed video cameras that's just like you clip on your ear. And of course the footage in the movie is just like, red cam, 4K, 6K, 8K, quality. And it was just completely bullshit if these things exist at all. These I think like most people in this movie I think are supposed to have, it's hard to tell, it's all shaky, but are supposed to be, a lot of people are supposed to be wearing these like just ear-mounted video cameras, which is of course, I don't know, easier way to have than people going like this. So one thing that's cool about this movie is there's like, it's found footage, all of it's found footage, but there's a lot of like different angles to keep cutting from to and all this kind of stuff. So it's ironic that even with all this, pardon me, like, I don't know, advanced technology and shit, that like with the drone, like the drone is kind of cool when they introduced it, because like I say, I was like, ooh, cool, what are they going to do with it? It turns out they do nothing with it. It goes up and down, and I already said that. Up and down, twice, and gets caught in a tree, and it's just whatever. So I actually looked at online to try to see the budget of this thing. It's purported that like the budget of the first Paranormal Activity was like $15,000 or something along those lines, and I couldn't, at the time, and even now I can't imagine what the hell that money went to. Like, it's just unbelievable. And I was like, I was curious after seeing this movie how the budget was. The budget of this movie online, I don't know if it's true or not, is somewhere around, I couldn't believe it, somewhere around like $5 or $6 million. And like, it's got to be just another bunch of Blair Witch tomfoolery, because there's no way you could spend $5 or $6 million on this movie. It's just absolutely unbelievable to me. So unlike the first movie, in my opinion, where you have a group of 3 people who are very charismatic and really, really nice, just improv. That's the word I was trying to think of in the first review, or the review of the first movie. Improvisational skills and ad-libbing skills, and just thinking on the fly for dialogue and reacting and stuff like that. The people they have in this movie, which I think is like 6 people. I think there's 2 couples, and then like the black couple, and then the brother of Heather character, and then his friend who's a girl, and then when you add the goofy guy and goofy girl that they supposedly found this footage in the woods, I think you have 6 people. And I was like excited when it's like, ooh, 6 people, a lot of people to die, and it's just like, you don't see, you think you'd be able to see something in this movie. Like, you don't see anything. This movie is nothing but just a bunch of jump scares. When people do die, you don't see them die, they just disappear. The black girl actually gets a drone caught, or someone gets a drone caught up in the tree, which is realistic anyway. Because that's how usually most, when you see on YouTube, most drone voyages end with a crash. So when that happened, I'm like, well, that's realistic. she goes up. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where this black girl goes up the tree to, I don't know what the hell she wants the drone for. Like she could eat it to stay alive or some. And she never says. She going up the tree to grab the drone, and frickin' she gets pulled down and pulled out of camera view. Like you see nothing in this movie. There's just heinous, just loud screaming. Unlike the first movie where there's little to none actual post-production sound, you got weird, goofy, like just kind of scary sounds. And the sound design on this movie when scary shit's happening is kind of cool and creepy, and that's where I can see most of the budget going. But $5 million, I can't imagine the sound costs $5 million. I don't know what the fuck. Like I say, $5 or $6 million went for this movie. It's unbelievable to me. So, long story short, this is a movie just full of, when shit actually does start happening, it's just mostly jump scares that aren't even scary. It's basically loud people screaming, people calling out the characters' names over and over. If you like hearing people's names yelled out over and over, like Into Black Woods, Darkness, you'll love it. Oh my gosh, that's another thing. Towards the end of this movie, they end up in perpetual night where it never gets night. Basically, this goofy guy and his girlfriend or whatever go away, and they come back later on like, when was the last time you saw us? And it was like, we just saw you yesterday or this, a couple hours ago. And he's like, we haven't seen you in 5 days. It's been night ever since. So it's just like, and then later on at the end of the movie, they disappear again. And at the end of the movie, that goofy guy comes back with a beard and looks like he's been in the woods for like 6 months. So towards maybe the last third or 20 minutes of the movie is all at night, which you think is a good thing. I don't know, it kind of is for atmosphere or not or whatever, but this movie does something that the other Blair Witches didn't do, which is perpetual night towards the end of the movie. They not only do they get lost, but towards the end of the movie it's perpetual night. They come across a house. I don't know if it's supposed to be the same house from the end of the first movie or not. It's probably supposed to be the same house from the end of the first movie. It's kind of cool because it actually, there's a rainstorm. That's where some of the budget went too, with lightning and rain effects and shit. But basically in this movie, when they get into the house, like with the original Blair Witch, they get into the house and, not long after, like, they go up, one of them goes upstairs and one downstairs, and he gets attacked. She comes downstairs and sees him, and then, against the wall, and she dies, whatever. Happens relatively quick. In this movie, they get into the house, and it's just like they're milking it, man. Milking it. There's this stupid scene where this girlfriend, this friend girl of the, the brother of Heather Donahue character, climbs through some, wet, dirty tunnel, under the house or something, and she gets stuck and just like panic. It's supposed to be such a horrendous, scary scene. It's just boring and stupid, and she's all wet, and her hair's all wet and muddy on her face, and it's just like you're just yawning and scared. It's just like, oh my god. Just can't believe. Anyway, long story short, the end of this movie, when they actually get into the house as milked, it seemed like it lasts 15 minutes. 15 minutes that seemed like 30 minutes. It's just unbelievable. She just, she spends like 5 minutes crawling through this muddy hole only to come out the other end or something, and oh my god. Then when they're in the house, there's like light, it's like light from outside and weird UFO sounds and light streaming through like the boards of the house like it's a UFO, and it's just like, what the fuck? I guess this is the Blair Witch UFO frickin'. Anyway, the cool thing about the movie, like I say, is when goofy stuff is going on, like the sound design for the, I guess we'll just say Blair Witch event, shit, or Blair Witch's presence or whatever, are kind of epic and cool sound effects and shit, but it's just like, it's so, like I say, one of the cool things in my opinion about the first one was that it was so lo-fi, made it seem more real, but this doesn't, there's no way this could pass for real because it's so Hollywood and bullshit and stuff. So one of the cool things about the movie is you actually, the whole thing about this movie is don't look at the Blair Witch, or you'll die. So this character like turns the camera around and does the LCD screen backwards, so like she's trying to look for the Blair Witch without like looking at her, so she's cheating. And one thing I will say that was kind of creepy, there's this really quick little glimpse of, because in the movie they talk about the Blair, I don't think this has been said in any of the first two movies, it talks about the way they killed the Blair Witch, where they hung her up in a tree and like tied her to a tree high up and like attached rocks to her arms and legs to stretch her out. So we actually see this really quick shot of this apparition that's like got long arms and legs, which was kind of creepy. It's like, whoa, shit, that kind of creeped me out really quick. But on the whole, this movie is very underwhelming. I do like it more than the second one, just because it's, I don't know, it's all takes place in the woods and stuff, and the black girl's kind of cute, and I think, you know, the other girls are cute too. But it's, you know, it comes across, it follows the exact same, it's like I say, it's a remake, might as well be a remake of Blair Witch Project. It's a remake slash reboot. It's a sequel to it that does the exact same thing, ending in the house. You know, pretty much exactly the same after milking it and milking it and milking it, kind of like this review's doing. I think I better end it. My starge for Blair Witch. I can't remember what I gave. I gave the first one 1 star. So we'll give this 3/4 of a star out of 4 stars. So it's better than, in my opinion, I liked it more than Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, but I don't think it's as competent. Not that the first one's competent, but, you know. So at least we didn't like go to a theater to see this primarily. We were able to see it a double or triple feature, which was cool. I would have felt so dumb walking out of the theater seeing this movie. I would have been like covered my face, but you know, sorry to all the people that, oh man, went to the theater to see this movie, but I can't imagine, based on, you know, having seen this movie, that it's going to do any business, or that it, well, it's probably done doing business, but, you know, I can't imagine that it's probably, hopefully, just a flop and can finally be the last. It's so weird that just out of nowhere, like a third Blair Witch movie was made. I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like when I saw the trailer, I was just like, oh my gosh. But anyway, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about Blair Witch with 2016, the Blair Witch movie that came out in 2016. Just the performers are just boring, like I say. They don't hold a candle to the performers in the original. The scenario is boring. It's laughable. Jump scares, cheap jump scares, and scary, you know, music, or not music, but scary stings of audio stings to scare you. Jump scares. It should be called the Jump Scare Project, really, because that's really what it is. So anyway, I guess I've really said my piece on Blair Witch. I'm glad to finally have these movies seen and reviewed, that I can continue on with my life. I guess that'll do it. Feel free to let me, you know what you think about this movie. If you have any questions, you know, if you don't want to waste your money to see it, but have questions about it, what happens or whatever, feel free to communicate with Huge Movie Fanatic Nate in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next movie review.